Okay. And for our final primary pitch of the night, we have Carter and Dave, who's actually abroad in Copenhagen now, so he won't be joining tonight, and their venture, Sporos.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for your time. My name is Carter Friese, and I'm one of the co-founders of Sporos. We live in a time where information is everything. We need to know everything about a movie before we watch it, about a job before we apply, and about a person before we meet them. In most cases, this information is accessible by asking a friend, Siri, or even ChatGPT, but not always. In fact, one area I would argue is a little more consequential is information about our government. As a government major here at Colby, I very quickly discovered a problem. Unless you're spending hours on outdated sites like congress.gov or your state's legislature, it's very hard to stay on top of what your government is doing. Following the news helps, of course, but unless you're privy to some secret Signal group chat, it's very hard to know what's really going on. I started asking questions to those I knew best, my peers at Colby. I asked, how many recent pieces of government legislation could you name or reference off the top of your head? Out of the 550 responses, a 24% plurality said they could not refer to a single one. 63% could not name more than a few. But surely college students aren't the most equipped at knowing what is going on in our government, right? Well, I turned my focus to policymakers, policy analysts, State Department veterans, and more, interviewing dozens and finding these similar problems existed under every stone I turned over. Accessing real-time, actionable government information is possible, but incredibly challenging. We surveyed government academics and researchers, asking which part of the research process do you find most time-consuming? 47% said finding sources, and just 10% said writing reports. Now, all of these come together to form three core problems. Number one, government information exists, but is highly scattered across hundreds of sources, as every federal and state agency maintains their own unique database on their own platform architecture. Official texts are full of complex legal jargon and hard to interpret, and as a result, the process of both finding and acting on relevant government information takes a lot of time. In a society where being informed is everything, this simply is not good enough, but it could be better. At Sporos, our mission is to unify and present US government data in a simple, accessible, and actionable way. We believe that whoever you are, no matter what you do or who you work for, you should have the chance to access the very information that impacts your daily life and your work. Gone are the days of navigating complex PDFs and jargon-filled databases. Sporos solves these core problems by presenting one unified data platform. Sporos version 1 is a repository of all existing federal and state legislative information, around 7 million documents. Users can comb through summarized policy, see what happened in the past, what's new, what's trending, and what might be coming next. Users can search any question they like, such as, is there any recent policy on voting eligibility? Within seconds, Sporos will return sourced, summarized answers in a conversational way and provide a suite of research tools to facilitate any process you might be on the platform for. Now, we're starting with just legislation because our initial market has identified the need for a solution here, but that's just the beginning. As we begin to expand into other data coverage and sources far beyond just legislation, the platform is going to improve exponentially. More information will be presented and summarized, more searches will yield more profound results, and more user groups will get their needs addressed. So how does it work? We start by pulling official documents from official .gov websites from public free APIs. These documents, instead of storing huge PDFs like some existing platforms, we're storing pure metadata. That is, titles, detailed summaries, categories, dates, and more. This saves us thousands of dollars on storage, but still facilitates a rapid and effective search process and enables us to display nearly the same information we would be otherwise. To enable search capabilities, it gets a little more complex, so bear with me. Each document is broken down into chunks, which are converted into a numerical representation of that document's semantic meaning. Anytime a user asks a question, we transform the query into a set of numbers and then return the most semantically similar results. That is, the closest related documents, relying on the essence of the document itself and not on keywords. So let's take a look at the competitive landscape. For starters, it's no secret that the government landscape tracking space is very crowded. You've got heavyweights like Bloomberg Government and Fiscal Note, but they're built for huge organizations, running them thousands of dollars a year and not really hitting the needs of our user groups. Informative sites like USA Facts and Pluribus News excel at providing summarized news and newsletters, but they fall short when it comes to unifying data and facilitating research. Finally, in the last few months, a whole new kind of competitor has emerged. AI tools like Perplexity and ChatGPT. These tools excel at combing the web and providing web-based citations and results, but government data simply is not a priority, and as a result, comes back broad and improperly cited. What sets Sporos apart is our specialization. We welcome the dirty work, the grind of sifting through complex websites and databases. Instead of being a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none solution like Perplexity or a rigid enterprise-first solution like BGov, Sporos is built with specialization and affordability in mind. And while we're starting by casting a similar net to these competitors, we're doing so to grow methodically, taking inspiration from them and filling in gaps along the way. And as we expand our data coverage far beyond just legislation, we're just getting started. Next, our business model. To best cater to the needs of everyone in our target user groups, we're offering a freemium model starting with limited access to the search engine and the freedom to browse information and policy all across the platform. If users want a more synthesized and hands-off approach to information, they can sign up for our weekly newsletter, giving them access to understand policy passing through the courts and regarding issues they care about. For $20 a month, users can gain access to the complete search engine, as well as our suite of research tools, enabling them to research, study, or just learn about things that they're interested in. Now, down the road, we are planning to expand into enterprise, but we aren't there just yet, and we don't want to throw a number on the screen to make it look like we're going there right now. But down the road, we are going to sell our API access to large firms, offer multi-user licensing, and even down the road, make our accessible data, or our data accessible to AI agents to sell towards huge organizations like Perplexity and ChatGPT who can't access government data right now. So who are we selling to? While I could stand here and say we'll be making millions in a few months thanks to this funding, it would be ridiculously naive. We do believe that Sporos will be a tool used by millions of people, from policy analysts, newsroom employees, even to large think tanks and organizations. But to be a little more realistic, we're starting with a 3-month beachhead market of NESCAC students and professors. This market is one that jumped out to us as one that uniquely understands and feels the problem, but is currently unsatisfied with any solutions available. This market is also one that we have really clear access to as students at Colby College, and we feel we have a strong chance of breaking in after interviewing dozens of professors and hundreds of students. This serviceable obtainable market of around $113,000 will serve as our proving ground this summer before we look to expand to more user groups. So how are we going to be doing this? Starting off, in the next 30 days, we'll launch a pilot program in partnership with Colby's brand new Public Policy Lab. This will enable us to refine the product and help expand throughout the NESCACs as we look to grow this summer. All the while, we will live and work full-time in Portland, Maine at the Rue Institute Summer Accelerator, attend conferences like the State of GovTech Conference in Arlington, Virginia, and spend the month of August post-Accelerator living in Washington, D.C. as close to the problem as possible, where we'll look to expand into journalists, policy analysts, and more. Now, down the road, we do have big visions for Sporos, but we want to be realistic. Down the road, after expanding to municipal data, building code, we also want to look into international government repositories and start storing information on the United Nations and the European Union. Looking down the road, we also want to build and launch a charitable arm of Sporos under a 501c3 with the goal of tackling misinformation and informing a more educated America. Today, we're raising $25,000 to execute our beachhead market strategy and complete version 1 and launch throughout the NESCACs. $17,000 will go towards TypeSense cloud storage, enabling us to store and parse all 7 million entries of legislative information. $4,800 will go towards Claude LLM calls, enabling us to craft high-quality search results as well as newsletters. $600 will go towards backup Supabase storage, funneling into TypeSense, and the rest towards ensuring a high-quality newsletter and initial marketing. Now, the team behind Sporos is one that is wholly devoted to first understanding the problem and then crafting the solution around it. My technical co-founder, Dave Boku, is currently abroad in Copenhagen, but that sure as hell isn't stopping him. Even though he's 6 hours ahead of me, I swear to God, he stays up later than me every single night working on this. It's honestly a bit crazy. He actually beat me to encountering this problem as a policy intern at USAID, where he was essentially a minion doing the work that Sporos is attempting to facilitate. On top of this core team, we're also guided by a number of key advisors, 2 of whom are Allison B.A. and Nicholas Jacobs. These 2 incredibly intelligent and well-connected individuals have vast experience facing the problems we're trying to solve and have been invaluable in our initial development, networking, and more. To conclude, we at Sporos believe that the window into government should be crystal clear. Americans, policymakers, researchers, journalists, and more deserve better. You all do too. While our vision might be big, the seed we are planting is small. We're attacking this problem methodically, strategically, and above all, knowing that one way or another, this seed will blossom. Thank you.
Would you rather be LexisNexis or Wikipedia?
Right now?
Well, I don't mean which business would you rather own. I mean, like, which
I see.
direction makes more sense for this business,
Yeah.
you think, over time? Because I think you presented something that's much more Wikipedia, but that's also a nonprofit organization. I don't know if that's where you want to go, Carter.
Yeah.
Or do you want to be something that serves a certain type of professional that's trying to get access to certain types of information that is high value to those professionals? You could be either. I'm just curious which one you're more.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. We're starting by casting our net in the B2C space, so I guess more Wikipedia, if you would say that. But we recognize that there is still a huge demand. I mean, companies pay tens of thousands of dollars for companies like LexisNexis, Bloomberg Government, and all that, and so we know that we can do that at more affordable rates. It's just a question of where we start. And we're starting with individuals, researchers, professors, and more because we've talked to them the most. We have the easiest access to them, but that's by no means saying that's where we want to end. That's where we're starting. That's what we have the funds to do. But I think there is probably more money in an enterprise-first solution, and so down the road we would definitely expand.
The risk I'd encourage you to think hard about if you don't want to go the Wikipedia route where it's citizen activists and is that the types of queries and needs you may find from your first audience may send you off in directions that actually don't end up serving the audience that you'd like to, if that's where you want to go, more towards the business world or the policymakers, the lawyers, whatever it is. It may send you in the wrong direction, so you may get some signal misfire on that.
Got it.
So just worth.
Thank you. Thank you.
You mentioned that part of your process for embedding the data is to basically add more texture by analyzing the context and then producing new analysis on top of that. How is that happening? And why do you feel so confident that Perplexity and OpenAI are not going to be able to surface this information as time goes on?
So that's sort of two different questions. I'll first start with the data. So what we're doing when we take the data from the public APIs, we're essentially just categorizing it in the issues we feel most important. So those are like, I have a list here of how we're embedding things. So we're allocating 2 to 4 sentences, probably more, for the summaries and things like that, and that's going to enable us to craft what we feel to be the most accurate representation of what is actually the essence of the data. And so right now, if you go on congress.gov, you'll be able to see like AI-powered summaries of the legislation and things like that, but a lot of them are inaccurate. So we're running these all through LLMs. We'll have backup LLMs and things like that, and that's going to ensure that we have what we believe to be the best representation of what is going on in the document. That is also something that Perplexity can do. That's also something that ChatGPT can do. But what sets us apart is, I like to think of the analogy as a librarian. If you're going to the library, you want a librarian who at least understands every book. Maybe they've read every book, maybe not. Perplexity is really good at knowing where to find every book. They know at least the general information on every book, but we will have read every book specific to the government. If you want to ask us about a sports team or about something completely unrelated, we're going to be terrible. We're not going to do that in the slightest. But our market is super specific, and we're doing the specialization so that once we have this data moat of tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions, of pieces of data in here, it's going to be hard for a tool like GPT to snap their fingers and just come in and take us off the market. It feels unrealistic, but undoubtedly something to consider with how much money they have and everything like that. So thank you.
My questions were actually along the lines of what Eric was asking you in terms of like who your customer base is and if you have plans to grow as you've just described, whether adding all those different other types of government documents actually puts you into a different sort of customer arena. And I guess, part of the additional question is, you've been talking about like newsletters to try to keep in front of people, like you got to give people a reason to kind of want to continue to subscribe. Like what kind of data are you actually providing in that newsletter? Because if it's not just like new legislation that's constantly coming out, you're just kind of rehashing old data that's kind of in the database.
Yeah, that's a really good question. So the reason we have the newsletter included is because we came into this with like this big dream that we were going to revolutionize the public information space and topple big news and everything like that. That's obviously not going to happen. We want to be a tool that provides informative information on everything going on behind the scenes. And if that doesn't mean, maybe it's not weekly, maybe it's bi-weekly, maybe it's monthly, I think there's definitely more synthesized ways to present the information that makes more sense for every type of user. But to get back to your original question about who we're going to be selling to and how we're going to grow and things like that, that's, if I'm understanding correctly. So it would be silly to say that we're going to start with college professors and end with college professors. We're starting there because I'm a government major, I've worked with dozens of them, and they know and understand this problem at its core, and I have really clear access to them. But in 6 months, there's no telling where we're going to be. Our goal is to be working in DC with journalists, policy analysts, and more, but we're trying to do this very methodically and check one box at a time before we go on to the other one to best cater the solution to the problem at its core in each user group. So we have big goals of expanding the market really widespread, but we're starting small to make sure that we really solve the problem first. Thank you.